Thank you, everyone. We will start the activities today. We will have the building capacity and capability by Patrick Dunlop. I don't know, I speak well. But Patrick, be free for starting the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, good morning. Thank you for everybody coming. It's really good to see so many people. And again, thanks to Lita for organising, and her team for organising everything this week. So the last thing that we want to talk about is specifically about the capacity and capability building of the project. Whilst it's my name at the top, it is not me, and to be honest, I'm not very good at this. It's everybody in the room. And as we talked about, everybody in the room has a responsibility, if you work on the project, to do this. I just help, or try to help, to coordinate and report on everybody's activities. So it's thanks in advance to everybody from the partners, because you are the guys that do this work package. It's not me. Okay. So the approach, and maybe you saw this slide on Monday. The approach that we have is to try to develop the organisations, the institutions and the people so that SafeWater does not stop in 2 years' time. It's only the beginning. So we have people that are able to do more in the sector, that they're able to get careers in the sector, they're able to progress in their career in the sector. We are able to attract more money, continue to build our network. And SafeWater project, as we are now, the ambition is to develop SafeWater as a centre, an international centre, like Mike described, competing with these other global, established, international centres for water research. And SafeWater is only the first project within this ambition to develop a global centre to address some of the UN things that he had on the screen. It is not our job in SafeWater to develop UN reports. It's not possible. We have our specific targets. But if we can grow the culture and the environment and the networking within the group, bring in new partners, have new projects. It's like SafeWater, it's like dropping a stone. The project should be like dropping a stone with all of these ripples of activity over the next, well, for the future. Okay, so that's the ambition. And part of that ambition is to train, give people the skills and the tools and help them to network to achieve that bigger ambition. So that your PhD, for example, is not the end, it's only the start of your journey, your career in research in this area. So that your lecture post becomes a professor post where you can develop into your own research group, so that your NGO or that your work in the NGO can develop to have 70 more staff rather than 20. Okay, that's the ambition for the SafeWater Centre. And that's what the funders want. They want us to leave a legacy in the countries where, as Mike describes, where we don't have this idea or ambition of east versus west, north versus south, where we're all equal, we all compete equally, we all work together to solve these big global challenge problems associated with water and health. So the way that we designed the project is to try to look at individual participants, personal and professional development, to undertake these little exercises to see you may be brilliant at communicating and networking, and that's not something you should get extra training on. You may need some help or some support about writing grant applications or critical thinking or enterprise and entrepreneurship. So we try to use these little exercises we'll do today to identify the gaps personally in your own portfolio, and then you can match that gap with some training. If your presentation skills are good, you don't necessarily need to go to the presentation skills courses. Okay, and I'll show where we get some of these theories from and what sort of training we should be working on. So when we identify the gaps, we have to put together a plan. So how will you personally work towards achieving some training to meet those gaps and those goals. And that's what we're going to do today. Whilst it says personal, it doesn't only mean you in isolation. You need to have a discussion with your supervisor or your line manager about what is required. I may think my presentations are okay, but my supervisor might say they're terrible. Okay, so it's not, whilst it says personal development, you need to seek advice on what programs, what skills are required for your current job, your current post. Okay, and work together. I'm not suggesting that anybody stops their lab work to go on a 3-week training course. Okay, so we've got to be careful about prioritizing our work, our development, and how we put all that together as well. So I suggest that, and I'll say it again when we get this, you need to have a discussion with your line manager. If you're an academic, with your head of school. If you need to go overseas to travel, to take some courses, to develop your career, I would suggest you have a discussion with your head of school, not just go and do the courses, okay? And we will show all of these, we call it the doc. I think everybody got an email. Did everybody get? Everybody get? Yes. If you didn't get, you can speak to me. I think everybody should have had an email, either, well, at least last night or today, with some passwords, and we will use those. It will not be me talking. You will be doing and using the system in a little minute. So that's what we're going to do today. As part of SafeWater, we also want to inspire people to travel. And some of the travel has taken place already. And we have a plan for this mobility of mostly early career researchers. So for example, Bill went for 3 weeks to Kantara Brazil to try to understand and to help with specific parts of the research. Natalia came to Ulster, to both campuses. And I guess lots of other people have travelled too. Helen will stay in Sao Paulo. Okay, and it's very important that people not just academically work in their little office, but they really sort of feel and smell and taste the problem to get a better understanding, that they appreciate there are different ways to do research and business in different countries. So my little example was, signing in the mornings. If that's the Brazilian way, we need to have a respect and understanding that different cultures, different ways to work, and we need to learn to do research in different countries. If that means you stand to the national anthem, you stand to the national anthem. It wouldn't happen in the UK, very rare. But we need to learn to have respect for these different ways and practices of working, and therefore sort of co-develop and co-create these ideas of what we want to work on. Not just drive in with a big white van saying UN and leave chlorine tablets. It's not effective. People become reliant on the van arriving. They have no way then, if the van doesn't arrive, to purify their water. So it's not an effective solution. Yeah, we want to learn new skills, eat new food. I don't think anything in Brazil has been too spicy. Wait till you go to Mexico. Oh my word. The stuff that is red that I think is spicy is actually quite calm. It's the stuff that's green and clear that is... Even Helen, remember? Helen in a panic drank a jug of untreated water because it was such a fiery chili. It's very funny, it's very funny. And we want to have a bit of a laugh. That's why this networking and this having meals together and having coffee is good. But I don't think it's been perfect so far. It's so busy. Everybody is so tired. So we need to think about balancing all of these ambitions of work and networking to try to make the future workshops a little bit perhaps more valuable, and we'll talk about that later. So, Hector said something to me the other day. I mentioned about Mexico, and he said, "Oh, you've never said anything back, and we're terrible." I'm not looking at you specifically because you've only started, but generally speaking, we are really bad at feedback. And for academics who are told all the time, you need to give your students feedback, I kind of see now, wow, that's important. And I need to think a little bit It's hard for engineers to think. No, I just do. But we all need to think a little bit about, people will call it reflection, a reflective study. Think about what we've done. Has it worked or not worked? If it has not worked, we should be thinking about ways to change it, to make it better. And I would run through the wall. I would never think to build a door and walk through the door. If that makes sense, we need to think about other ways to solve problems and to work together. So we were in Mexico this time last year, and Cantara Brazil went way, way out of their, caused lots of trouble, did super amount of work to try to organise us. It's maybe easier for a university where you've got the support of different departments, and you have big rooms and you have facilities and accommodation close by and buses and all of these things. But for NGOs to do that is a crazy amount of work, ridiculous amount of work. If your organisation has 20 people or whatever, to host 40 is, very difficult. And I don't think we recognised all of the effort and work that went in to hire or to work with another organisation to have a room for the meeting, to organise translation, which we probably need more of, is really important. To facilitate practical exercises and spend days and days to buy equipment and to do all that it's a huge effort. And people did benefit, Hector. People really, we had a good time. We had lots of interaction. Everybody got inspired to do more for the project. And we are really bad at trying to capture that information and report it back. 40 people went to Cantara Brazil, it was really good, but we don't capture all of the nice things that we did. And we should do more. We should do more of that, being positive and promoting the work that we do in the project. We did lots of different things that were work but were fun. We didn't have so much of academic lecture. We had these sort of participatory activities where Cantara Brazil got us out of our chairs to work together. And I said this at the time, it's probably the first time that we have managed to get everybody from different work packages, from different organisations, to stand around the table and think about the problem. Not think about their work package, not think about what am I supposed to do, but to think together about the problem. And it was really interesting that people, for the first time, spoke across what was the same campus at our university. They never had spoken together before until you guys put us in a room and made it some sort of fun exercise. So we should be doing more of these type of participatory, and Luis and Catalina did this time as well, which was good. We tried to get people out of their comfort zone, out of the lecture theatre, out of business school. Mike, I do this to Mike all the time. He knows it's not personal. Out of the business school and into the lab to see things. You have to see that it's not complicated, but if you come from a business background, you have no idea what we're talking about when you see the slides. But when you come into the lab and actually see what happens, you all of a sudden understand a little bit more about it. So when we went to the lab to see the microscopes and the biofilms, when we went downstairs to see the size of all the devices, people kind of go, wow, I didn't know it was this size. I didn't know it was so complicated. So the actually seeing things is better than listening to me talk. And we learned lots about the community that we're trying to work with, which was super interesting. Again, we were there, we know. Those guys had to put us in trucks, hire drivers, drive us all day, 6 hours into the jungle, really. So we could try and experience and see what life was like for the people that we're trying to work for. Where they store their water, how water is collected. It's difficult for us to continue to ask, Hector, can you go and get a sample? Hector, what is this? What is that? It's better to go and see it, and then you really, remember Helen? You really kind of go, wow, this is the reality. And there would be no other way to gather that experience if we didn't go. And for Jeremy to be crazy and collect samples, it's all part of the fun and part of the experience. and I learned how to take a selfie for the first time. You know, it's a life skill. And learn about the history and the ethos and the way that water's perceived in different countries. For us, you turn the tap on, you get water. In the UK, that's absolutely not the case with these guys that we're trying to work with. And we need to understand that. We need to embrace that. Not try and change it, but to embrace that, understand that, and to develop our technology to meet those needs, to meet those social and ethical and religious needs. I call it the stupid little surveys that I do. Okay, so the night before, I thought, God, the previous manager and I were like, we have to report something about this workshop. How am I going to do that? So like my engineering way is numbers. I don't like phrases and, you know, I like numbers. So we had like, you have got now these little things about trying to personally rate your knowledge and to see, and I don't expect you to make things up or to exaggerate on those sheets. It needs to be super honest. Okay, if 1 at the start stays 1 at the end, that's, you know, it needs to be honest and open and truthful. Because we crunch all the data and we try and look and see, has there been any active measure of learning? Which, as I've just described here, none of this is captured in my numbers. Okay, all of this benefit is not captured in my numbers. So we need to think about other ways to capture information that's really important for the project within Work Package 6. So anyway, this is some of what I thought were the interesting things from the numbers. So 40% of those that attended filled out the surveys. 85% of those that visited filled out the surveys. So those I think are quite high numbers for surveys. If this was some sort of scientific thing and you only got 40%, you'd be going, God, that's terrible. But for surveys, that's quite a good response rate. It's slightly biased, I'll talk about that in a minute, but look at this one. So when you look at the little numbers, on average, participants' understanding of the rural Mexican water and culture issues was only 1.5. They had some idea, they were pretty low. But after all the work with Cantaro, not by academics, by Cantaro, it really, really, really improved, significantly improved, and we have numbers to show that. So that was, most of this visiting consortium were academics. So it shows that the academics learned a lot from the NGOs. They learned a lot, we can capture it in numbers, learned a lot from that experience of being in the country, being with the guys who actually do the work. And counter to that, if you look at the technical themes we talked about, which was water treatment and microbiology, the perception at the start was people had a higher level of knowledge. Well, you would expect that because it's their disciplines, okay? But it didn't really improve very much. So the academics learnt more from the NGO than they did from themselves. And that's important. It's important that we need to be open to doing that. It's a sort of out of our comfort zone, maybe, as academics, to learn and to learn about an experience rather than numbers to pass an exam or, you know, to learn information. And as I said, these maybe are a little bit biased because most of the people that replied were academics. So we've got to just be careful about some of the numbers as well. And it led me to think, how do we capture some of this sort of experience that turns out to be kind of important? It can't just be numbers. We need to think of other ways to capture that information. Because as I mentioned, if we want to grow to be a bigger centre that's involved in water research, we need to understand the problem, all aspects of the problem. And that's what happened when you did this. It's not what happened when we did this, okay? So I don't know, I was talking with Vanessa who walked up. We need to be smarter about how we capture this information. Anne did this. So somebody with a bit of a social science background, Anne got us all to speak at a little video at the end, you remember? We were all stood in a little circle with our little ceremony to close, and people were asked to just generally comment about how they thought the event went, what they learned, I'm not going to read these out because you can kind of read them, but there were some really interesting things. Wow, this project's complicated. For the first time, 1 year into the project, researchers, this was a researcher, a postdoc, 100% dedicated to the project. First time, 1 year in, they realized how complicated the project was. So we need to learn that when we start a project, there must be a better way to communicate information than, say, read the description of work. If that makes sense, we need to be thinking for the next projects, how do we get people interested, involved, and understanding projects better? Because the current ways don't work. I enjoyed the discussions. I didn't enjoy listening. I enjoyed talking. So I didn't enjoy listening to me. I didn't enjoy the lecture. I enjoyed the discussions. Wow, it's challenging. Looking at mini communities, which is what we're doing. We're not targeting individual households. We're not targeting big cities. We're targeting these micro communities of people. We hope that that's the area that we can address, not the big, massive global water crisis. It has to be targeted, it has to be specific, so that we understand the context, the environment, and can provide an appropriate solution. We are all different, and not all of us talk. Okay? I like this method, which was this one, which if you wanted, you could write down and put a post-it note. You didn't have to, I would talk. You didn't have to get the microphone. So then the output of this, they felt represented everybody, not just those who could speak English and put their hand up. And again, we need to, as a group, think more about that as we collect information as we go forward as well. So it's funny, just one comment. I must be getting old or tired, I don't know. But I've started to listen a little bit to people. We would never have had any of that information, really, captured and reported if Hector didn't say, it would be nice to hear a little bit about the project. And it's something that we, as the executive group or the management group, need to listen. There's no point in writing these we have to write these big long reports for the funders. We have no choice. But some of this stuff is probably important. That people that work in the project hear and they know that we had a super time and it was a real big effort. We know that, and it was same for Brazil. We need to do more of this feedback somehow. Right, enough of my reflective thoughts. As an academic in the UK, and as specifically an engineering discipline, when you get your lecturing position, your first post, the university, they make you go on a course about learning to teach. This word pedagogy, I'm still not sure what it means, to be honest. I can't spell it. And I thought it was crap, this rubbish course. Who do they think they are telling me how to teach? But most of it was about trying to listen and think, which is kind of important. It's important to not be always under pressure to meet deadlines. You need to find some time somewhere to think. So I've thought enough, that's it, I'm going to do work now. Okay, back to work. As part of our capacity and capabilities, we recognized very early on that the academics needed something very different to the NGOs. Okay, very different. They're not aiming to progress in an academic career. They're busy in their own environments with their own aspirations, and their institution or their organisation doesn't have this goal of we want to promote everybody wants bigger jobs. It's totally different approach to the progression of the company, the people in the organisation. So we did something different, and these guys are quite interesting. This is a company in Belfast that specifically provides training for the water sector. And the guys this week or next week, they go to the Falkland Islands to train all the guys in that government department about water and hygiene and sanitation and building infrastructure. So they're really good at training government departments, at training NGOs. And I apologise, it looks okay on the computer. If you go to this website, you'll find out some more information. They provide industry industry-led, industry-verified qualifications for their training. So you don't just get a certificate of attendance, you get an industry-recognised qualification from attending their courses. And they go the whole way up. You can do these Institute of Leadership and Management courses, very formal, well-respected training courses. You can do scientific and specific training course, watershed management. All of the operators that work in technical level can be trained to understand, they call it the blue badge, about water sanitation and hygiene. If you make a hole in a pipe, you've got to close it properly, otherwise bugs can get in. Okay. And they do lots of leadership training and lots of other formal qualifications that might be more useful for the guys in the NGOs than listening to academics talk. Maybe, I don't know. So as we now start to look a little bit more about academic training, because it's the majority of the audience, you guys can maybe have a look at this website. I had a postdoc called Favor who tried to help a lot organise the training stuff I'm going to show. And I know she was emailing in contact with Mila and Kata about how can we help. And I don't think we ever got to the bottom of that. I'm pretty sure we didn't ever get to the bottom of how can we help provide specific training for the NGO partners in the consortium, and we need to do more. So BWAC asked a little survey, I think it was a monkey survey or online, wasn't it? And I think lots of people in the organisations both completed. And what they thought the outputs of that were that people in the organisations could perhaps need some leadership, some language, and probably some specific technical needs. But we never had a follow-up, really detailed conversations about how could we do that. So we need to revisit that one. But that might be more effective to have these guys involved than academics sometimes. Okay, oh dear. Right. For academics, there's quite a large body of work already conducted at EU level as to what skills do academic researchers need. There's a lot of work because if you look at this big, what's called the knowledge wheel, it's by a company called Vitae, and they're the European experts. They're based in the UK, and lots of this stuff has filtered down into developing doctoral training within the universities. It's based on these 4 sectors: knowledge and intellectual abilities, personal effectiveness, research governance and organisation, and engagement, influence and impact. And these have been developed with companies, with employers, with academics. What do you want graduates, people with PhDs, lecturers to have? What skills do you need them to have? And there's been a huge amount of input from government. You know, you always hear in Europe a shortage of STEM. We need more STEM graduates. All of that's gone back into this level of training. So I think it's pretty valid. It's a pretty good basis for us to use for our training. Look at this one. There are 12 sections on the skills that are required to be an effective researcher. Only one is your discipline. Okay, only one relates to the technical training that you as a student or a PhD student or as a lecturer have. Only a very small proportion of those that do PhDs actually go on to a full-time academic career. So why would we focus all of our attention on training people to be academics if in the UK, the stats in the US as well, it's about 90% don't be academics. They go to do industrial research, they go to work for companies. So if you're considering your future after PhD, this is only one little part of the skills that the employers want you to have. So it would make sense to try to develop some of these other skills as well. And it's about the idea that Mike was and some of the other guys have been talking about, not just this little silo, this little bottom of the triangle, but being aware of broader areas that you need to help develop your career, to get a good job in the end, to be able to contribute to work in this SafeWater area. And we have used this then to design questionnaires to see what your levels of skills are across this wheel, and then to provide training back into, try to provide a full, rounded set of training in what we call the DOCC program. Okay. So you can look on the DOCC website, which we're going to look at in a wee minute. There's all this background information embedded within it. There's links, there's things to download. So if you're interested, you can go and find out more about the theories of how we have developed the training. Okay, everybody has their computer, don't they? It was not the idea that I would stop talking and start listening. The other thing is, I was laughing with Nigel this morning, and I don't mean this to be cheeky. Remember what I was saying? I'm trying to listen to about the behaviour thing. I like the social science stuff. Interests me. There's no point as an engineer making the best camera in the world if nobody wants to use it. So if you fill out these surveys and if you complete the work, you can have sweets. Okay, so at coffee time we'll have after eights. It's a very traditional, classic, British. It's positive reinforcement for your good behaviour. Okay, so we have spent a lot of time and we have got some extra support from the university to try to develop what we call the DOCC project, Developing Overseas Capacity and Capability, because we realised very early on, if the university wants to do more of these big projects, they can't just sit in their ivory tower, which it is a tower, it's probably made from ivory in our place. They can't just say, oh, you academics go and get these big projects, if there are no resources to support any of this training for capacity and capability, which is so important. So I managed to selfishly get some extra money to use this for SafeWater. Okay, but it will act as a legacy for future projects within the university too. So you can go to this website, ulster.ac.uk/doc, and believe me, that took 1 month of emails and phone calls to try to just get that name. It's, as you can imagine, the bureaucracy is ridiculous. And this website is hosted within, not Faculty of Engineering, but within Research and Impact. So within the central department that's responsible for research management. Okay, and they like to use this word impact. Close your ears. Not perhaps sure they really appreciate what that means. Okay, in terms of our work, to be honest. But you can go, and as it says, this project is supposed to support all staff and NGOs to develop capacity and capability, and we pilot it through SafeWater. Okay, so if you scroll down, so everybody needs to be doing this on their computer. If you ulster.ac.uk/doc. Well, it works. Does it not work on anybody else's computer? Can anybody see this page?
Okay, I will do it, Helen, because mine is not working.
Ulster, try again. Ulster.ac.uk/, make sure the slash is the right way.
Yeah, just copy from your email. It's the same to Vanessa.
Okay, there's a cheat. Okay, if you cannot get that first page, I don't know if I have it. Look, here is the next one. So within this page there is a link. Okay, if you scroll down, you can see it says Doc Resources, which is this link. Okay, so if you type this one,
Okay.
it should bring us out to the software, which is an open education resource called Blackboard that we use for the training. So everybody's computer should work that one.
Patrick, Rafael didn't have the
Oh,
email. I don't
That's-
know if there are more people that
I will
receive
fix for you
this
in 2 minutes.
information.
Did everybody else? I don't know how. I
Rafael
forgot.
hasn't.
Did everybody else get an email? Yeah. Yes. It's only Raphael. Sorry.
Okay. Mhm.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Raphael. So, if the link does not work, you can type this in. It's another shortcut. There's a third way you can get to this, because everybody has to do it personally. It's a personal training plan, a personal development plan. So if this doesn't work, I can tell you another way. You kind of learn as a lecturer to have at least 1, if not 2, if not 3 backups. Yay! So this is the software the university uses to for us to upload our our online material to, I tell you, it's horrible. It's the most difficult to use software ever, but we will give it a go. So, when you get, it may look different on your screen because I see it as an administrator, not as a student. It may look slightly different, but there should be a button that says enroll. Okay, on the computer, everything is a little bit more grey. On the screen, everything is quite bright. But you should have a button here that says enroll, and you can use the details I sent by email to log in specifically to the system. A third way to get to this site is just to go to Google Open Blackboard. And when you're on the Open Blackboard, search for DOCC, and it'll bring you from Open Blackboard to the course. Everybody good? No. Who said no? Apart from Raphael. If there is a capital letter or a number, be very careful that the capital letter and the number. Okay, so if you enroll on the course, it will bring you to the next page, which is like the welcome. So you must enroll. I think you have to enroll and then click go to course or something. If you can't log on or have difficulties with that, I'll come back and check everybody whenever the group start the exercise, okay? So there is a lot of information on the website. It explains a little bit about the project. It explains how you navigate the site. This menu here on the left is really important. Okay, so you can get anywhere within the site by clicking the menu on the left. We know if we have Blackboard, we use Blackboard for our teaching. It's not very easy, but all of the information is here. If you need some help on something very specific about the software, you can click on the help, okay? For SafeWater, all of this information is in a handbook, okay? You can click here, this link, and download the Researcher Development Handbook for the SafeWater project. You don't have to do now, but it explains the background, it explains what is the project, and everything in a PDF, because sometimes that's easier than the web, okay? And this link here points anybody else who uses it to SafeWater, because we want the other users to know about SafeWater. Okay, so we're using this to promote SafeWater to anybody else in the university or anybody else that logs into the open website and tries to access the course. Now they can't unless I approve them, but you know. And there's some more information. Do you remember I said about this big skills wheel? We call it the Vitae Researcher Development Framework. You can click here, and it brings you to the website and shows more information about the theories that are underpinning our work. What is really important is that you cannot show you have personally developed or learned anything if you don't record what you do, okay? So online and on the site, it's called a journal. It's up in one of these boxes in the menu. And it is a way that you can, on the site, record what course you did, what you learned from that course, and if it addressed your skills gap, and if you recommend it for anybody else. Okay, that's a personal portfolio that you develop that the administrator can also get access to, or you can share with the administrator. It is not shared personally, okay? And you choose to share it with the if you want to share it with the administrator, or you can send a link to it. I should have said this at the very start. This is all voluntary. There is no demand, there is no expectation. Like everything else you sign up to, if you don't want to be involved, just email me. I will delete your account, delete your email, delete everything from the system. The only information the system holds is your name and the email address. Okay, it doesn't hold any other personal information. And we have asked our university and the research ethics department about collecting this information, and we have undertaken like an ethical approval to collect some information about people's learning and people's perceptions of learning. The little workshop evaluation that if you're not doing this you can complete as well doesn't need a full ethical approval because it's asking for your opinion about participating in a workshop. It's not asking what brand of washing powder you like or any of those personal pieces of information. But it's something else we need to be careful of in the project. The DOCC itself has got and did ask for ethical approval, because if we're using this information to inform research, we need to have consent. So I think some guys at Medellin and some guys at USP, they completed an online survey with Favour to say what courses they think they would like to do, and that's what we designed back into the DOCC. So for that, we had to have ethical approval, and we have ethical clearance to seek your opinions that inform our research. So we need to be very careful about personal information and about ethics and some of these things. Again, this takes 6 months to get through the university, to ask a survey about what you would like to learn, but we got there in the end. Okay, I don't expect everybody to remember all of this now. There are some slides that kind of match screenshots, match what you see, go here, go here, go here, so you can have them later. And everything is there. You can log in whenever you want. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is, the handbook is also there, sorry. The handbook's also there. You can download, you can read everything you want, find the links, etc., as a PDF. The first thing we're going to do is getting started. Okay, so the menu in the top left is where you go to find everything. And no matter where you are on the site, you can go back up to the top left. And if people have difficulty getting in, once everybody else begins the first step, I'll come round. Okay. So the first step is a training needs analysis. What training do you need to do? Again, the guys at USP, I think most guys have done this. They did this with Favour, so they can maybe help if people are having difficulty with the questions. They can help you through this. It takes about 15 minutes, so you'll be glad to hear that I will not talk for 15 minutes. Okay. How do you click the link? Up here, click this button. This is why I say this blackboard's hard. You've got to put the little cursor then up at this. Oh, sorry. This one here. If I would follow my own guidance, it would help. Look, training needs assessment. And then click the link. Okay. This brings you out. Is it working? This brings you out to a different piece of software that we've built to ask, pardon? No, you create another. You can use the same username and password if you want, but it's not, this site is not pre-created with your details. Okay, so I think it says create. Have I got a slide? No, I think it says create new user. I was going to have two computers, one where I would do it, and these as my notes, but I think it's very easy. And this registers a personal account for you with the software that we had to build to ask questions about these skills gaps. It looks like this. Look, domain A. So this will ask you questions about your knowledge of the subject, your cognitive abilities, and your creativity. And you simply rate, here's the question. I have no expertise using this skill. I have some experience, but I'd like to improve. Rate your level of understanding or competence for each of the questions. You just press the little button. Okay? So I will help anybody who has not managed to get on the system, and everybody else can complete this training needs analysis. Yeah, yes, so for this piece of software, you need to create an account. Okay? You can, if you wish, you can use the same username and password. It's up to you personally, but you need to create a new account, and then you will get to this page. I think it just asks for your name and an email and a password. Yeah. Remember these details, because the output of this will be a personal little boxes, and you can go back into that software and get that information again. Okay?
Is it the same for all our workers in CPA?
Oh yeah. So.
All our workers can do
Yep.
the same
Yep.
steps.
So this is just. I think I have had 2 people. Who've tested. So if you're having difficulties, I need to set up another password, and then I will help everybody if they're having difficulties.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
even with the password that you sent me, and I tried.
Okay.
to
So
make a new
you
one.
need to create a new
Yeah, I did.
sign.
Okay.
Okay. Put your name.
Hi, time for a break. We will have the coffee break now. Okay, thank you.